we looked at the instance store, the object storage, the block storage, and the file storage. So we saw that S3 is the object storage. And what it does, it takes your data and it breaks it down into objects. Now, those objects have information about those objects. That information about the object is what is known as metadata. With the object storage, it is a write once, read many. So a WORM in short form, WORM. Write once, read many. So you have the capacity to write data onto your object storage once, and you can read it multiple times. The object storage has the capabilities of versioning. And what that's all about is whenever you modify the data that is stored in the object storage, it stores a newer version. That's the aspect of versioning of the object storage. So that's why you do not want to use an object storage for frequently changing data, because it will keep storing new information as you edit or modify things. And that's going to be expensive because it's going to use a lot of your storage capacities. Next, we have the Glacier, which it is used for archival purposes. And for a lot of the aspects where you have to use Glacier, you have to use the lifecycle policy to move your data from any of the S3 classes into Glacier. So you employ the lifecycle policy to move data from any of the S3 classes into Glacier. And that is employed because it reduces the cost. It is cheaper than all the other S3 classes. Okay. Next, we looked at the EBS volumes, or the elastic block storage. So what it does is it takes your data and it breaks it into blocks, and it looks for any place within your network where it can store that data or store that block, such that it gives you the highest performance possible. So it is network operated, so you use it over the network. It is not physical, it is virtual. Next, we have the instance store, or the instance storage. This is a physical storage that is attached to your host computer or your host server. This particular storage type is also referred to as being ephemeral, because the data that is stored there is temporal. So if your host server fails or is terminated, the data you have in that storage is lost. So that's why it is referred to as ephemeral. So the data there is temporal. That's employed mostly when you have caching activities or you have fast processing operations that you do not care to store or save. Okay. In terms of performance, the instance store has a higher performance than the block storage. But the block storage is used because it is persistent. So in terms of performance, the instance store is higher than the block store, but the block storage is persistent while the instance store is ephemeral. Okay. And we also looked at the EFS, or the Elastic File System. That is the network file system that is employed for Linux instances. So whenever you have data that you want multiple instances to access at the same time, you go ahead and employ the EFS, or the Elastic File System. So you can have multiple instances accessing the data within the EFS at the same time or concurrently. Okay, so while we have EFS for the Linux, we have the FSX for Windows. So it is the network file system for Windows, but we have different types. So we have one for Windows, we have FSX for Lustre, which is used for high performance computing, Linux file systems. And we have the one for NetApp, FSX for NetApp, ONTAP, that is used for high operating system compatibilities. And that is used to move workloads you already have running on the NetApp system or platform onto AWS. And next we have the FSX for OpenZFS. That is used to manage or for managed ZFS file systems. And that is used when you want to move workloads already running on the ZFS system onto AWS. Okay. And next we looked at the storage gateway. It is a bridge that helps you expose your data on-prem to your data in the cloud. And we saw that we have different types. We have the S3 file gateway, you have the FSX file gateway, you have the volume gateway, and you have the tape gateway. So the storage gateway for the S3 gateway, it is used to access your application servers, and it moves that to the S3 bucket. And remember, all these gateway types, they transfer your files from your on-prem to the cloud using the HTTPS protocol. And we had the transfer family. So this is the mode in which you can give access to data that is within your S3 bucket or your EFS system. So it uses the FTP protocol. And we have the three different types. We have the FTP, which is the file transfer protocol. We have the FTPS, the file transfer protocol over SSL. And we have the SFTP, the secured file transfer protocol. And with these, with the FTPS and the SFTP, those two, the data, whenever it is transported, it is encrypted in flight. And lastly, we had the data sync, which is just a form to transfer a large amount of data from on-prem to AWS or from AWS to AWS. And we saw we had the snow cone, the snowball, and the snowmobile under the snow family. And the reason those three different devices are used is because we do not want to transfer data over the network. So these are actual physical devices that are used to transfer your data from one location to another. So they're used for data migration, and they can be used for edge computing as well. So we know the snow cone, the snowball, and the snowmobile, they're all used for data migration based off the capacity you need. While for edge computing, the snow cone and the snowball, those are the two devices that are employed for edge computing. And we said edge computing is simply performing computing functions at an edge location. And an edge location is simply a location where you do not have internet, or you have limited internet access, or you do not have access to the cloud. So that's what an edge location is. So when you want to perform edge computing, you can employ the snow cone or the snowball. And those two devices, they have specific capacities or capabilities they provide when it comes to edge computing. And examples of edge locations will be like a mine on the ground, or doing some drilling at sea. You do not have access to the internet, you do not have access to the cloud. So with that, you can take either a snowball or a snow cone, and you can use that to perform data analysis while you're offshore. And once you come back to where you have internet connectivity, you can connect the device and move your data to the cloud. So that's how they employ those devices for either migration or for edge computing.